I'm honored to welcome and introduce Ms. Sarah Truman. She's a highly skilled and compassionate professional specializing in integrated yoga therapy and somatic trauma therapy. As a certified trauma-centered, trauma-sensitive facilitator and mental health-aware yoga teacher, Sarah is dedicated to supporting individuals on their healing journeys with their expertise and commitment. She plays a pivotal role as a certified facilitator and serves on the AAYT AU SACTIV Advisory Committee. Her work embodies a deepened sense of empathy, creating safe and transformative space for trauma recovery. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Ms. Sarah Truman.
Welcome, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi. You're speaking to us today about mental health and reducing anxiety and depression. We look forward to your talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Just checking to see if the slides are able to go up at all, if that's possible. Amazing. Thank you so much. And we can move straight on to the second slide to get started. Okay, so again, thank you for having me here today. Today I'm going to be here talking to you about yoga therapy and reducing depression and anxiety. I recently came across a few statistics that were really quite staggering. It was saying that 4% of the global population has some sort of anxiety disorder, which equates to around 301 million people, and that around 5% globally have depression, which is around 280 million people. So we know that anxiety and depression is something that is quite prevalent across the globe. The next slide, please. So I wanted to start today talking about and defining what is anxiety and depression. And I thought a good place to start might be by looking at the DSM-5. So the DSM-5 is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, and it's often used as a reference for mental health and brain-related disorders. Now, it has been translated into about 18 languages, I think it is globally now. But the thing that I think is important to note is that depression and anxiety, as defined in the DSM-5, may not actually reflect how anxiety and depression is experienced across the world in different cultural contexts. And this is also where I believe yoga therapy can come in as a really beautiful tool, as yoga therapy works with the whole being. So next slide, please. So let's start by having a look at what does the DSM-5 actually say about depression and anxiety. So the DSM-5 says that depression is a mood state categorized by persistent sadness, fatigue, and a loss of interest or pleasure in activities. And that anxiety is a state that involves excessive worry, restlessness, and heightened tension. Now, it's important to note that during this presentation, I'm not talking about major depressive disorders or generalized anxiety disorder or any other diagnostic condition, as that would need to form part of a much larger conversation than what we have time for here today. But that it's also important to notice that when we're talking about anxiety and depression as states, that we don't necessarily label these states as good or bad, that we instead just notice them as different states. So, for example, preparing for this presentation today, I noticed that, I did have some sense of anxiety in the preparation, and that was needed to help me meet the deadline and to take action and to get the work done. However, what we're talking about is when that state of anxiety or that state of depression becomes unhelpful. And can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is where we start to tap into the tools that we have in yoga. If we can go to the next slide, if possible. Awesome, thank you. So in yoga philosophy, we have the gunas. So the gunas are 3 essential qualities that exist in nature and also live within us. Now, these qualities of rajas, tamas, and sattva are constantly fluctuating. Now, these qualities, I believe, may be the key to better mental and emotional health worldwide if we learn to acknowledge and recognize and balance these before they sort of start to step into states of anxiety and depression. So let's have a little look at these in a bit more detail. So rajas. Rajas is the quality of activity, passion, and movement. So when balanced, rajas gives us that energy and that drive, kind of like what I was talking about before when I was feeling a sense of anxiety to prepare for this presentation. It gave me the energy and the drive to take the action. However, when rajas becomes excessive, it resembles the state of anxiety. We start to feel agitated, restless, and unable to calm our minds. In this way, rajas in excess can contribute to the development of anxiety and perhaps eventually may lead into anxiety disorders that is defined in the DSM-5 if it continues to be persistent and overwhelming. And I think the persistent is the key part here. So for me, sometimes when I'm experiencing rajas personally, I often think to the Gita, where the Gita talks about the 100 cousins on the battlefield, which can represent the 100 thoughts constantly racing around in my mind, pulling me in different directions. And I think this is a really beautiful visual way of explaining to people what the feeling of anxiety is inside of our bodies. And again, this is one of the gifts that yoga gives us, is these beautiful, beautiful tools that we can bring in to help people understand what it is that they're feeling. So tamas. So tamas, on the other hand, is the quality of inertia, darkness, and stillness. Now, while tamas is necessary for rest and to help us get that downtime and to sleep, too much tamas can lead to lethargy, heaviness, and a real sense of stagnation. And this can mirror the experience of depression. Now, depression is often experienced as a lack of motivation, low energy, and a complete disinterest in life. So when tamas dominates, it can resemble persistent sadness, fatigue, which is like what is described in the DSM-5, that state of depression. So when we're talking about tamas, tapping back into that, gift of yoga and yoga philosophy and the Gita, when it talks about how if we can focus on the 5 positive thoughts, think about 5 positive good things and really focus on those, that these positive thoughts can grow stronger and can help uplift us out of tamas towards balance and overcome the 1,000 racing thoughts that we get when we're in that anxiety space, which ultimately then brings us to looking at sattva. So if we're able to reduce tamas and reduce rajas, we start to journey towards sattva. Now, sattva is that quality of clarity and peace and harmony. It represents balance. And when we're in a sattvic state, we experience mental clarity and emotional equilibrium. And ultimately, it helps us journey home to our true nature. And we get that sense of inner peace. And can we go to the next slide, please? So then, how can yoga therapy help? How can this sort of help reduce anxiety and depression around the globe and, bring us back to that sense of inner peace? So one of the things that I think that makes yoga therapy so valuable is its non-prescriptive approach. Yoga therapy offers us a wide range of tools to explore, and we tailor them to individual needs so that each of us can find what is best for us, and we're able to bring ourselves back to that inherent state of peace. For instance, if someone was feeling the effects of excess tamas, we might explore different asanas or breathwork or mindfulness techniques that can help them move from tamas in the direction of sattva. And this might involve finding tools that gently increase activity levels, stimulate intrinsic motivation to move, and encourage creativity. On the other hand, if someone is experiencing excess rajas, we might want to focus on investigating practices that help calm the nervous system, slow down mental activity, and bring the individual back to a more groundful and peaceful state. And the thing I think that is so valuable about yoga therapy is, like I said, it's not prescriptive. It's this co-collaborative approach where we're really working with the individual. So one of the ways that I find really great about yoga therapy is when we're working with individuals is bringing in the concept of the koshas. If we could go to the next slide, please, that would be great. I don't want to spend too much time sort of going over this, but I think this is one of the beautiful things that when we're working with people, this is the gift of yoga and yoga therapy, is that people can start where it meets them. So if somebody was feeling, a sense of anxiety, we could work with the individual to find where do they want to begin. Do they want to begin working with the physical body, maybe doing some physical postures, or perhaps they want to work more on the mind and, want to bring in some tools like some mantras or some meditation practices. And the same with depression. It really gets to meet the individual where they're at. If we can go to the next slide, please. So at its core, yoga therapy is about returning us to our natural state of sattva. That is our true state, our true nature of clarity, peace, and balance. Yoga gets to teach us and reminds us that we are born sattvic. And through using the tools of yoga that suit us as individuals, that we're gradually able to return to a peaceful state that is our birthright. If we can go to the final slide, please. Thank you. So yoga therapy offers a compassionate, non-prescriptive approach to mental health. It brings the frameworks of the DSM-5 with the timeless wisdom of yoga. By using the gunas, the doshas, the transformative tools and messages from the Gita, I really do believe that yoga can help people reduce anxiety and depression and reduce things before it becomes to that stage of becoming a diagnostic criteria and a disorder. So I really believe that as we heal ourselves, and when we focus on ourselves, and when we come home to our true nature, that our inner peace is not just a personal experience. It radiates outward to the world, impacting our families, communities, and ultimately the world at large. And that when we heal ourselves, that we contribute to healing the world. And thank you.
Wonderful use. That was a wonderful use. Thank you, Sarah, of the gunas as a compass, as a gentle compass, and as a reminder of their impact on us, and how to work collaboratively with clients to bring out the best. I thank you so much for the talk you've given. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to Jill.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Ms. Sarah Truman for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness. Thank you so much.